Victoria suddenly remembered her mother's words. Could Sincere really be leaving the Pembroke family, leaving her? At this thought, a sharp pain pierced Victoria's heart. She couldn't care about anything else and drove straight home. She even brushed off a call from Ethan on the way. "Ethan, I've already been with you for 3 days. Let me confirm things with Sincere, and I'll be right back to you, okay?" Though it was a question, Ethan heard the non-negotiable tone. Even though he was gripping the bedsheet so tightly they could have ripped, he just gently reminded Victoria to be safe. Standing at her front door, Victoria took several deep breaths before pressing her fingerprint on the scanner. Sincere Clark? The house was empty. A wave of panic washed over Victoria, and she frantically searched every room in the house. But nothing. There was no trace of Sincere anywhere. How could this be? Sincere loved her so much. How could he just leave? Victoria frantically called Sincere's phone over and over again. She was wearing a wedding dress and veil, running in from the entrance, holding a violin out to me. "Sincere, didn't you say you would marry me once this violin was finished? Look, I've finished it. Let's go back to Harborview and get married, okay?" The once vibrant and radiant Victoria was now incredibly humble. Even with heavy makeup, she couldn't hide the haggardness on her face. But what did that have to do with me? The one who betrayed me was never me. I helped Serafina up, holding her hand to reassure her. Whispers rippled through the crowd. More than just gossiping, they were lamenting the violin in Victoria's hands. What a pity. The body of this violin is carved like a work of divine craftsmanship, but the rest of it, alas. If this instrument had been fully completed by Mr. Clark, it would have shaken the entire violin-making world. What a shame it is now. Victoria's face grew paler and paler amidst the crowd's sighs of regret. I said nothing, slowly reaching out to take the violin. Victoria shook off the 2 bodyguards' hands and laughed with schadenfreude. "See, I told you he was faking it. He's probably off having fun somewhere right now." Before she could finish her sentence, something was thrown at her face. She instinctively caught it. "Are you crazy?" Victoria's scream died in her throat when she saw what was in her hand. It was a bank card she knew all too well. It was Sincere's, his one and only bank card. Ever since the Pembroke family started sponsoring Sincere, he had always used this card. He said it was because of the family's support that he was able to get an education and achieve what he had. Therefore, his money was completely transparent to her and her mother. Then what about Sincere? What did he spend? A flood of images flashed through Victoria's mind. It felt as though Sincere had been targeting her at every turn today. Even if it was about Ethan's return, judging by his tone, he had probably known about her relationship with Ethan for a long time. Ethan lost his parents when he was young and has always lived under someone else's roof. I treat him like my own brother, so what's wrong with taking a little extra care of him? Hearing this, I found it laughable. It seemed Victoria had forgotten that I shared the same background. But just as I was about to speak, I caught sight of a condom wrapper half slipping out of her coat pocket. In that instant, I suddenly lost all interest in arguing with her. Seeing me silent, Victoria said impatiently, "Fine, I'll agree to your proposal when we get back this time. We'll get married this year. Are you satisfied now?" A brilliant idea that kills 2 birds with 1 stone. I didn't look at Victoria again, shouldering past her and walking out the door. She roared from behind, asking where I was going. I sneered, not breaking my stride. "Aren't we going to find your precious brother? What? Not in a hurry anymore?" Perfect. There were some things I needed to return to Mrs. Pembroke personally. "You should go check on him. I'll be fine." Victoria looked at Ethan's frail state and quickly sat back down to soothe him. "Mom, Sincere is so manipulative. He must be putting on a pitiful act for you because he doesn't want to take responsibility. I bet even the doctors in this hospital have been bought off by him." But Mrs. Pembroke knew the truth. Although Sincere was decisive and ruthless in business, he couldn't even bear to kill a chicken. How could he possibly frame someone else? Seeing her daughter in this hopeless state, she knew more words were useless. Men escort the young mistress to Mr. Clark's room on the 6th floor only by seeing Sincere's condition would her foolish daughter finally believe it. No one saw the person on the bed, Ethan, clenching his teeth, his face twisted with hatred. Sincere Clark, you bastard, I will never let you get away with this. But when they arrived, all they found was an empty hospital room, with no sign of Sincere Clark. She wanted to use her life to make me remember her forever. But to me, she had long since become someone who wasn't even a stranger. Amidst the cheers of the crowd, I placed the ring on Serafina's finger, stood up, and gently kissed her lips. This lifetime I will spend forever with the one who is worthy. She stormed out of the room, her usual composure gone, and snapped at the people outside. That man on the 8th floor is a homewrecker, what? You all want to be someone's homewrecker? Forget it, Auntie Eleanor. After all, if we were being technical, I might be the other man now. Hearing this, Mrs. Pembroke hurried back to my bedside. Sincere, Victoria does have feelings for you. She's just been momentarily blinded. After 8 years together, even if it was an act, I knew I had found a place in Victoria's heart. But compared to Ethan, it was insignificant. And besides, I didn't want to be with someone who hadn't cleared her heart out. Before I could speak, Victoria's call came through. The phone was on speaker. Sincere Clark, if you're awake, get your ass over here and apologize to Ethan, otherwise don't blame me for breaking up with you. Mrs. Pembroke was so angry she was breathing heavily, about to curse her out. But Victoria gave no one a chance to breathe, hanging up as soon as she finished speaking. I was already used to scenes like this. As soon as I opened the passenger door, Victoria tossed her phone into my lap. Before I could ask, she spoke. I'll drive. You watch Ethan's location. I glanced down at Victoria's phone screen. It was the couple's app I had begged her to use with me for so long, the one with location tracking, which she had refused. After I was kidnapped, she and Ethan had started using it immediately. Don't get the wrong idea, Ethan is all alone abroad. Before Victoria could finish, I cut her off. He's about to be taken to the Pembroke estate. You should hurry up and drive. Just as we intercepted the Pembroke family's car, Victoria rushed out. The men driving saw it was her and didn't dare to act rashly. They could only watch as she led Ethan out of the car. But before they could get into our car, a taxi came careening towards them, out of control. Perhaps because of my debt to the Pembroke family, or perhaps because I had grown so accustomed to protecting Victoria over the years, I grabbed her, trying to pull her to safety. $52 million was already more than enough. Even if the marriage was to avert a disaster, what was the purpose of gifting the shares? It seems Clarky has really forgotten me. Serafina pouted, puffing her cheeks as she leaned in close to me and said, word by word, Clarky. My hand tightened on the contract. You were that little girl 20 years ago. Serafina was abducted and taken to my village. It was I who secretly rescued her and took her to the police station. After I got separated from my family, I was kidnapped by traffickers and subjected to inhuman abuse. If I didn't obey, they would stick needles under my fingernails, force me to eat spoiled food, and learn unspeakable things. That experience is a lifelong nightmare. After being rescued, Serafina couldn't bear to think about that time. She developed a severe case of selective amnesia to escape the painful memories, but she always had dreams. I already went to Ireland with you and signed a 100-year contract. How are you still not satisfied? Although her words were scolding, anyone could hear the affection in her tone. I stood not far away, the smell of the cheap mask mixed with the grease paint on my face, making me feel like I was about to suffocate. When Sincere proposes, I'll tell him I've been cured of my frigidity. Then I'll slip some sleeping pills into his wine at a candlelit dinner to make sure there's no excessive intimacy. How does that sound? Is my little jealous boy satisfied now? Seeing Ethan pout and not respond, Victoria smiled and moved her hand lower. If you don't answer, I'll have to ask little Ethan. Instead, Ethan let out a soft grunt, protecting the back of her head as he spun her around and pinned her against the wall. But I just froze on the spot. Victoria's words were like ice picks, stabbing into my heart one by one, cold and agonizing. I had been with Victoria for 8 years. Under Victoria's expectant gaze, I smashed it violently on the ground. "Miss Pembroke, do you really think I would still marry you now?" Victoria stared blankly at the shattered pieces of the violin on the floor, then suddenly started scrambling to pick up the fragments like a madwoman. She seemed oblivious, even as splinters pierced her fingers. I gave Serafina an apologetic smile and turned to leave, holding her hand. But at that moment, Victoria lunged forward. "Sincere, don't go. Sincere, I was wrong. I was really wrong. I've already had Ethan's legs broken, and he can never have children again. Sincere, come back with me. I'll spend the rest of my life making up for the mistakes I've made. Please, Sincere, forgive me, please." Her face was streaked with tears, her eyes filled with pleading. Looking at her pathetic state, I felt no pity at all. I too had once been humble to the core for her, but what I got in return was relentless harm. "Victoria Pembroke, Sincere Clark is your boyfriend. Do you have any idea he was unconscious in this hospital for 3 whole days, with all the bones in his leg shattered? And you've been here, taking care of someone who doesn't even have a scratch, what?" Victoria frowned at her mother's words. "He was hurt that badly? Why didn't anyone tell me? To say she wasn't worried at all would be a lie. For so many years, whether it was at the company or taking care of her daily life, Sincere had been completely devoted. It was just that sometimes she might have spoiled him too much. Not only did he constantly make passive-aggressive comments about her and Ethan, but this time he even dared to attack Ethan, so she had given Sincere the cold shoulder for a few days, wanting to teach him a lesson. Seeing Victoria's expression, Mrs. Pembroke knew exactly what she was thinking. But before she could speak, Ethan on the bed let out a groan. "Victoria, Sincere probably didn't mean to push me. No matter how well she pretended on the surface, I still knew. Her favoritism for Ethan had never waned in the slightest. 8 years ago, to prevent Ethan from being kicked out of the Pembroke family, she reluctantly agreed to be with me. 6 years ago, because Ethan mentioned wanting to eat hot pot, she abandoned a press conference and flew abroad without a second thought. 3 years ago, to keep the thunder-fearing Ethan company, she nearly got me killed by kidnappers. And now, to keep Ethan from feeling wronged, she was tricking me into a sham marriage, even planning to drug me to ensure I remained the oblivious cuckold. I respected her, honored her, and gave her my entire heart. I thought one day I could warm hers. But what was the result? For a moment I wanted to rush over and ask Victoria, did she truly not have a heart? But when I saw the two of them like a raging fire consuming dry wood, everything suddenly felt meaningless. I unclenched my fists and walked away, heading to the security room. Even though those wounds have scarred over, they remain a permanent mark that can never be smoothed away. Victoria Pembroke, for 8 years I forgave you in my heart thousands of times, but you never once seized the opportunity, I said coldly, then shook off the hand Victoria had clutching my pant leg. When she tried to lunge again, Serafina blocked her and slapped her across the face. My Clarkie is kind, so I'll be the one to deliver this slap, and you'd better remember, Miss Pembroke, Clarkie is now the CEO of the Sutton Corporation in Beijing and my fiancé. Please show some respect and keep your hands to yourself. I rubbed Serafina's hand with a touch of concern. Did that hurt? This one slap was nothing compared to what I had endured over the past 8 years. On the day Serafina and I got married, major news broke from Harborview. Victoria Pembroke had apparently killed Ethan Pembroke the night before, and after confirming his death, she had jumped from the 28th floor. The police found her suicide note in her room. I didn't tell Serafina that on the afternoon I saved her, I had been preparing to jump into a river. It was her appearance that gave me the hope to keep on living. Serafina touched my knee and rested her face on my leg. The person who could so calmly recount her own past experiences suddenly had red-rimmed eyes. Clarkie, I only blame myself for being a coward. I should have found you sooner. A month later, at the violin craftsmanship competition in Italy, I won first place. Amidst the cheering crowd, Serafina and I both knelt on one knee, opening a red velvet box containing a ring towards each other. Clarky, will you marry me? Fina, will you marry me? In that moment, we saw looks of disbelief in each other's eyes. Then we both burst out laughing. But before we could say our I do's, the doors to the hall were thrown open. Sincere Clark, you can't marry her. Victoria Pembroke, whom I hadn't seen in months, suddenly appeared. 4 years ago, on Ethan's birthday, when she tied herself up with a red ribbon as a gift, appearing before him completely naked. To as recent as yesterday, when they were in the haunted house discussing how to cuckold Sincere, and then their night of revelry at a hotel. Every single one of these moments had Ethan's hand in it. No wonder Sincere knew about her relationship with Ethan. No wonder Sincere had appeared at the haunted house even though she had booked the entire place. The veins on Victoria's forehead bulged, and her teeth ground together audibly. Her exquisite face was contorted with rage. She couldn't imagine that the person she had wholeheartedly doted on for so many years was actually rotten to the core. In a daze, Victoria thought of Sincere over the years. Even after being misunderstood time and time again, treated so horribly by her, he never once complained. Images of Sincere's disappointed eyes flashed through her mind, until today, when they had finally become flat, completely indifferent. He won't be able to take it when she failed to pull me along after a few tries. A look of anger finally clouded her face. You're not still jealous, are you? I've told you many times, I was late tonight because I was working overtime. It has nothing to do with Ethan. The scolding, just like always, rained down on me like a storm. No matter how good Victoria was to me on a normal day, the moment something involved Ethan, everyone else had to take a back seat. I let out a cold laugh and violently shook her hand off. Usually you'd fly abroad in a heartbeat if Ethan lost a single hair. Are you telling me you didn't know about something as big as his return to the country? Ever since I found out Victoria loved someone else, I had corrected my position and restrained my feelings. For all these years, I never said anything, so Victoria always thought I didn't know. Now, a flicker of guilt crossed her eyes, but it quickly turned into self-righteousness. Miss Sutton, is this disaster shielding task going to be life-threatening? Could you tell me more about it so I can be prepared and arrange my affairs? Serafina blinked, then burst out laughing. She took a contract from the butler and sat up straight. First of all, Clarky, you don't have to be so formal. Just call me Fina, or Sugarplum. Secondly, this task won't endanger your life, but because it involves the rest of your life, we need to be careful. If there's anything you're not satisfied with, just let me know, and I'll change it for you. I stared blankly as I took the 2 contracts Serafina handed me. What could possibly involve the rest of my life? Then, when I saw the marriage agreement and the Sutton Corporation stock transfer agreement, I understood everything. Serafina Sutton wanted to marry me and was unconditionally gifting me 25% of the Sutton Corporation's shares. Any single clause in these contracts was incredibly advantageous for me. But why? But the next second, Victoria was yanked away by her mother. A crisp slap echoed through the space. Ethan Pembroke, you weasel, you're still acting. Even now, Ethan looked at Mrs. Pembroke's furious face, a flash of guilt in his eyes. But he quickly covered his face, tears streaming down uncontrollably. Mom, I'm still the son you raised for over a decade, even if I was foolish enough to fall in love with Victoria all those years ago. I've already suffered 8 years of separation from you and her. Now I was almost killed by Sincere, and instead of caring about me, you... Smack, another slap. Mrs. Pembroke had drawn blood from the corner of Ethan's mouth. Victoria never imagined that Ethan, whom she cherished like the apple of her eye, would be beaten twice in one day by her own mother. She flew into a rage and tried to lunge forward, but was held back by the bodyguards next to her mother. Since you insist that Sincere harmed you, fine. I'll have the police search now. Just as she hung up, Ethan's call came through. Victoria, save me, Sincere. He's trying to kill me. What? Victoria's face changed drastically, and she shot up from the floor. She had thought that giving Sincere the cold shoulder for a few days would have been enough to teach him a lesson. She never expected him to escalate things and try to harm Ethan. A cold glint flashed in Victoria's eyes. Don't be afraid, Ethan. I'm coming to save you right now. After hanging up, Victoria rushed out of the house and drove towards Ethan's location at top speed. As soon as she got out of the car, she ran into her mother, who had arrived with a group of police officers. "Mom, are you insane? Why did you bring so many police officers? What if Sincere goes crazy?" Mrs. Pembroke shot Victoria a look, wondering how her genes could have produced such a daughter. Was it because her father's inferior genes were too strong? Thinking of that social climber, Mrs. Pembroke spoke irritably. "This is a society ruled by law." The person on the other end was stunned for a moment. Then a cheerful female voice erupted. "Great, I'll send someone to Harborview to pick you up right now. Also, I'll transfer the $10 million deposit to your account immediately." I paused. "Miss Sutton, could I trouble you to send a private jet? I don't want to leak my travel plans. If I was going to make a clean break, there was no need for irrelevant people to know my whereabouts." But before I could hang up, Victoria's voice came from the entryway. "What's this about not wanting to leak your travel plans? Where are you going?" Serafina Sutton, the princess of a powerful Beijing family, had been told by a master that she had a great trial in her fate, and she needed to find someone whose astrological chart perfectly complemented hers to avoid the calamity, and I happened to be the one who fit the description. But I didn't tell Victoria that. I only said I needed to inspect a branch office undercover. As long as he's willing to come back, I'm willing to kneel on the ground and kowtow to him. Victoria seemed not to hear him. She grabbed Ethan's chin and gave a strange smile. "You like to pretend to be crippled, to be the victim, don't you? Today, how about I make your dream come true?" With that, she took the baseball bat handed to her by a nearby bodyguard and swung it fiercely at Ethan's legs. Piercing screams echoed through the abandoned building for a full hour, but no one dared to step forward and intervene. It wasn't until dusk that Victoria emerged, covered in blood. Seeing her mother, her eyes lit up, and she practically scrambled towards her. "Mom, I can't find Sincere." None of the people she sent out could find any trace of Sincere, as if he had vanished into thin air. She knelt on the ground, sobbing uncontrollably. "Mom, you and Sincere have always been close. You must know where he went." "Please, tell me, please." Seeing her daughter in this state, a pang of pity flashed through Mrs. "Don't aspire to a class that isn't yours. Let today be a lesson. If you ever dare to have such delusional thoughts again, you won't be so lucky with that." Victoria lifted the high-heeled shoe that was pressing on my body and kicked me hard. As I watched Victoria and Ethan walk away arm in arm, I suddenly laughed, a mouthful of blood spewing from my throat. Victoria Pembroke, perhaps the most delusional dream I ever had was that one day you might also fall in love with me. Victoria had someone destroy all the surveillance footage from the haunted house that day, but she didn't know that I had already backed up all the videos. I sat on the sofa, masochistically watching the two figures on the screen, their lips intertwined over and over again. Finally, I touched my chest. The heart that once beat so wildly had already become numb. Before turning off my phone, I made a call to Beijing. "Miss Sutton, hello. I agree to go to Beijing to shield you from your fated disaster." It was a place she had forbidden anyone from entering, a place filled with countless photos of Ethan. It turned out that from the very beginning, I was just a stand-in she kept by her side. And on that day, I finally understood the look in Victoria's eyes when we first met. "Sincere, does your face hurt too much to talk?" Victoria said, leaning in to check the injuries on my face. She carried the scent of recent intimacy, a scent so nauseating it made my stomach churn. I frowned and dodged her touch. Victoria thought I was angry because she had come home late. She placed her hands on either side of me, trapping me in her embrace. "Sincere, I have some good news to tell you." The distance between us shrank. Finally, just as Victoria's red lips were about to touch mine, I couldn't hold back a dry heave. The wound at the corner of my mouth tore open again, and blood started to flow. Startled, Victoria rushed to the bedroom to get the first aid kit. The Pembroke family valued my wife prospering fate, so they had sponsored me for decades. But as soon as I graduated from college, I was sent to Victoria's side to manage her company and take care of her daily life. Over the years, the debt of gratitude I owed the Pembrokes had long been repaid. I wanted to escape, but the words "let's break up" couldn't come from me. Just as I finished saving the surveillance footage, a scream echoed from outside. Ethan, a grown man, was trembling in Victoria's arms. "Victoria, I'm scared seeing his theatrical act. I almost threw up yesterday's dinner." But Victoria fell for it completely. Without a word, she walked up and slapped me twice. "Didn't I tell you my husband is afraid of ghosts? I booked the whole place today. All NPCs were supposed to be off. Why are you here? No one had ever notified me." I glanced at a gloating Ethan and instantly understood everything. In that moment, she found strength from nowhere, broke free from the bodyguards, and blocked the slap her mother was about to land on Ethan's face. "That's enough, Mom. What kind of spell has Sincere Clark cast on you that's made you so unable to tell right from wrong?" Her mother was so angry she almost laughed. She swung her other hand and slapped Victoria across the face. "One is a fool, the other is a weasel. Since you're so determined to protect this little weasel, then I'll let you see what the truth really is." Mrs. Pembroke threw her phone at Victoria. The video on it recorded the entire process of Ethan hiring a makeup artist to create fake wounds and then entering the building by himself. Hearing the sound, Ethan's lips began to tremble uncontrollably. "Victoria, don't believe it. The video is fake. It's edited." Ethan lunged forward to grab Victoria's phone but was stopped by several bodyguards. Pembroke's heart, but it was fleeting. She coolly pulled her leg away from Victoria's grasp. "I'm afraid I can't grant your wish this time. Even I don't know where Sincere has gone." Hearing this, Victoria collapsed to the ground as if all her strength had left her. Mrs. Pembroke paused. "As of today, Ethan Pembroke is officially disowned by the Pembroke family. You take him to get his name changed. Starting tomorrow, I will take over the Pembroke Corporation again. You are no longer a shareholder. As for the rest, you're on your own." It was evening when I arrived at the Sutton estate. There wasn't a single spot in the vast gardens that wasn't wheelchair accessible. Even the servants were polite and welcoming, a stark contrast to the disdain I had faced from the staff at the Pembroke home. But it was the excessive enthusiasm and attentiveness of the Sutton family that made me feel uneasy. After dinner, I finally couldn't help but ask Seraphina Sutton, this princess of Beijing. Before Victoria could think too much about it, she was startled by my badly swollen face. "Sincere Clark, what happened to your face? Did you get into a fight?" Victoria sat down beside me, her hand reaching out but then quickly retracting as if afraid to hurt me. The worry in her eyes wasn't fake, but I didn't know if she was genuinely worried about me, or about the face that looked so much like Ethan's. When I was first sent to take care of Victoria, I simply thought I was the chosen son-in-law selected by her mother. But when Victoria first saw me, her eyes flickered with too many emotions I couldn't understand. Later, we dated like any normal couple. Just when I loved Victoria the most, an anonymous call shattered all my beautiful dreams. Ethan Pembroke, the adopted son of the Pembroke family. The brother with no blood relation to Victoria told me that he was Victoria's true love. Even her frigidity was an excuse she had invented to stay pure for him. That day, I stormed into Victoria's study like a madman. Why, after enduring it for so many years, did he suddenly stop today? And the new injuries on his face. At this thought, Victoria's heart skipped a beat. It felt like she was missing something crucial. She took out her phone and quickly sent a message to Sincere. Ethan developed severe depression overseas, which is why I had to visit him so often. Besides, if you hadn't pushed him today, he wouldn't have had a depression attack. I heard from Mom that you were badly injured too, so I'll let it go this time. Come back and kneel to apologize to Ethan, and we'll consider this matter over. I'll also honor my promise to marry you." Victoria thought for a moment, then added another line. "Oh, by the way, Ethan loves crab roe porridge. Go buy some fresh crabs, shell them, and bring the porridge to him." The message was sent, but it was like a stone sinking into the ocean. This was not Sincere's usual style of responding to her immediately. After I had done everything, Mrs. Pembroke still hadn't returned. But the people from the Sutton family had arrived. Several bodyguards helped me into a wheelchair. At the moment I left the room, I glanced back one last time. "Mr. Clark, are you sure you don't need to pack anything?" I shook my head. Since I had decided to make a clean break, then it should be completely clean. The people and things that weren't worth it should be left in the past, along with all the lies. In the hospital room on the 8th floor, Victoria was getting an earful from her mother. Finally, she couldn't take it anymore and shot up from her chair. "Mom, how many times do I have to tell you? It was Sincere who pushed Ethan. If I hadn't been there to pull Ethan back, he probably would have." Victoria didn't finish her sentence. Instead, she yanked the blanket off Ethan's legs, revealing the patches of bruises to her mother. Mrs. Pembroke saw the fading bruises on Ethan's legs and let out a derisive laugh. "You call the police, not act like you're in some teen drama. But I want to see for myself when they catch the person. I want to see if the one who kidnapped Ethan is really our Sincere." Just as Mrs. Pembroke finished speaking, a figure stumbled out from the distance. "Victoria." Ethan's clothes were disheveled, and his body was covered in bruises and bloody marks. He had clearly been subjected to inhuman torture. She immediately rushed forward, catching Ethan and letting him lean completely against her. "Ethan, what happened?" Victoria's voice was full of worry. Ethan's eyes were filled with tears, his voice choked with sobs. "Sincere has gone mad. He said if he kills me, he can completely take my place. Victoria, I'm so scared." Seeing Ethan's pitiful state, Victoria was both worried and heartbroken. Hearing his words, she was instantly enraged. She wanted nothing more than to skin Sincere alive. "Don't be afraid. I'm here. No one can hurt you." Dreams filled with the image of my back as I led her by the hand, fleeing through the deep mountains and forests. Later, in college, I finally gathered the courage to undergo therapy. I remembered the little boy who saved me back then, and I remembered you, Clarky. After that, Serafina used the Sutton family's power to find me. But even though I had become successful and had Victoria by my side, Serafina knew that I wasn't truly happy. She didn't want to rashly disturb my life, so she came up with the disaster shielding excuse. Using big data, she had the text message sent to my phone. "Clarky, if it weren't for you, I probably would have died in that hell." My hand paused in mid-air before I finally rested it on Serafina's head and stroked her hair. "Fina, it's all in the past now. My mother was also abducted and taken to the mountains. She was a graduate student with a bright future, but it was destroyed by a man like my father. I watched with my own eyes as my mother killed my father, and then took her own life in front of me. If they really find him, not only will I make Sincere kneel and apologize to you, but I will also personally send him to prison. How does that sound?" With that, Mrs. Pembroke gestured for the police officers to start searching the buildings one by one. Seeing this, a flash of panic crossed Ethan's eyes. Although this area of abandoned buildings was desolate, with so many police and bodyguards searching simultaneously, there was virtually no place to hide. His fabricated story about Sincere trying to kill him would be exposed sooner or later. Ethan's eyes darted around. "Mom, everyone knows you've never liked me. Who knows if you've hidden Sincere somewhere just to frame me? In that case, you don't have to search. For the sake of Victoria and Sincere's marriage, for the harmony of the Pembroke family, I, Ethan Pembroke, am willing to swallow this injustice. I admit it. I framed Sincere. Are you satisfied now?" Looking at the bright red handprint on Ethan's face, Victoria felt both indignant and heartbroken. "Victoria, we've known each other for so long, you know me. How could I possibly do something like this?" Ethan's tears and snot mixed together, and his legs trembled with fear. At that moment, Victoria stared at him, her hand gripping the phone so tightly it creaked. The next second, she reached out and wiped at the wound on Ethan's neck. Even though the makeup had been set, her fingertips still came away with red and black streaks. Victoria, I just love you too much. Ethan's voice was cut off by Victoria's strange laughter. He had never seen such a crazed Victoria. Although she was smiling, her eyes were filled with a venomous, icy coldness. It was as if she wanted to tear him apart, bone from flesh. So you think this is edited too? Victoria shoved the phone in Ethan's face. It contained a compilation of moments from her 8 years with Ethan, edited into a video by Sincere, now playing bit by bit. From as far back as 6 years ago, when she rode the Ferris wheel with Ethan and they kissed passionately at the top. I took the opportunity to place a bank card I had already prepared into Mrs. Pembroke's hand. Auntie Eleanor, you see it too. Victoria's heart isn't with me. This card has the money I've earned myself over the years. That, plus my 8 years of contributions to the Pembroke Corporation, should be enough to repay the family's kindness. Mrs. Pembroke shoved the card back into my hand as if it were a hot potato. Victoria, I'll go get Victoria to come down and apologize to you right now with that. She ran towards the 8th floor without looking back. I let out a long sigh, reached for the phone on the bedside table, and once again dialed the number to Beijing. Hello? Miss Sutton? If it's possible, I'd like to leave for Beijing right now. I placed the card in a conspicuous spot. Then, I sent a scheduled email to Mrs. Pembroke, detailing everything Victoria and Ethan had done over the years. They had tormented me for 8 years. How could I possibly let them live happily ever after? She dipped a cotton swab in iodine and began to gently clean my wound. She was both heartbroken and guilty. If I find out who dared to bully you like this, I'll make them pay. Hearing her words, I couldn't help but scoff internally. Even if that person was Ethan, would you still stand by me like this? Sincere Clark, how many times do I have to tell you, Ethan is just my brother? Her reply was impatient and unhesitating. In front of Ethan, all her lies were so fragile. I said nothing more and stood up, wanting to go upstairs. Victoria moved to grab me, but a phone call stopped her. The moment the call was answered, I saw the name husband flashing on the screen. I don't know what was said, but Victoria's expression instantly became anxious. After a few quick okays, she grabbed me and tried to pull me out the door. Sincere, my mother found out Ethan is back and had him taken to the family estate. You have to come back to the estate with me now to reassure my mother. Otherwise, I'm afraid they'll use the family punishment on Ethan. Victoria couldn't imagine how Sincere had endured these 8 years. His lover was right in front of him, yet he knew she had already betrayed him. Victoria Pembroke, what a truly sincere person you have failed. Victoria felt a dense, sharp pain in her heart, as if thousands of needles were stabbing it relentlessly. Ethan had never seen her like this. He was instantly terrified, his face turning deathly pale, and the air filled with the foul smell of urine. Victoria, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Victoria, still holding the phone, swung it violently at his face. Several of Ethan's teeth were knocked out, and his blood-smeared face made him look utterly pathetic. But he didn't dare stop begging for mercy. Victoria was his only support. If he truly offended her, he would never have a chance at a good life again. Victoria, I was just too in love with you before. I was afraid someone else would steal you away. I was wrong. This time I really know I was wrong. I'll go apologize to Sincere. I was with my Frigid girlfriend for 8 years, and she never even let me hold her hand. I thought she was just asexual and continued to devote myself to her. That is, until I was working part-time as an NPC in a haunted house and saw my girlfriend press the man she truly loved against a wall, kissing him passionately. Ethan, mother values Sincere Clark's fate to bring prosperity to his wife. She won't let us marry, so I'll save my first time and every time for you. As soon as our child is born and has the right to inherit the Pembroke fortune, I'll divorce that waste of space immediately. Victoria Pembroke said it through clenched teeth. But later, after I took a blow meant for the princess of a powerful Beijing family, she was the one filled with regret. Chapter 01. But the moment I think about Sincere Clark getting to have a public wedding with you, Victoria, I get insanely jealous. Oh, you... Victoria reached out and poked Ethan Pembroke's nose, but the only response was the cold, mechanical female voice. The number you have dialed is switched off. Please try again later. Sorry. In the end, Victoria smashed everything she could get her hands on from the table. When her phone hit the nearly finished violin by the window, her brow suddenly smoothed. She cradled it in her arms as if it were a precious treasure. I knew Sincere was just throwing a little tantrum. How could he ever really bear to leave me? Sincere didn't smoke or drink. His only hobby was carving violins, and she loved to play the violin. When they first got together, Sincere had said he would give her a violin he carved himself as a wedding gift. For this, he had studied day and night, from the blueprints to the selection of materials, doing everything himself. This violin was the culmination of countless hours of Sincere's hard work. How could he possibly leave it behind? At this thought, Victoria's spirits lifted slightly. She took out her phone and sent people to find Sincere. Who would have thought she would violently shake me off and lunge towards Ethan? The next second, someone shoved me hard. And then, a sharp, intense pain and the sight of Ethan's triumphant gaze were the last things I saw before I lost consciousness. When I woke up, I didn't see Victoria. Only Eleanor Pembroke was sitting by my side. Seeing me awake, Mrs. Pembroke quickly called for a doctor. The door to the hospital room opened and closed, and the sounds of discussion and envy from outside drifted in. Oh my God, the couple on the 8th floor is just so in love. His wife is amazing to him. Tell me about it. The guy just has a few minor scratches, and Miss Pembroke has dropped everything at her company to feed him and take care of him at the hospital. She does everything herself. He's so lucky. Why can't I find a wife that good? My expression remained unchanged, but Mrs. Pembroke couldn't sit still any longer. Victoria, I heard some people will do anything to climb the social ladder, trying all sorts of tricks to attract the attention of the wealthy. He couldn't possibly be trying to... As Ethan spoke, tears started rolling down his cheeks. There was no way Victoria would let Ethan suffer such an injustice. She shot me a disgusted look and held him tighter around the waist. In that case, I'll have someone give him 99 slaps. Consider it a celebration of our marriage registration. Hearing Victoria's words, my eyes shot wide open. Victoria Pembroke, but before I could even finish her name, bodyguards emerged from the shadows and rushed forward. A slap sent my head spinning. Smack, smack, one slap followed another. The bodyguards only stopped when blood was trickling from the corner of my mouth and I was about to lose consciousness. Even when the mask fell off, leaving only a mess of smeared grease paint on my face, Victoria still didn't recognize me. She looked down at me, her eyes filled with contempt and disgust. A person needs to know their place.